Alrighty, and we are live. Everyone, welcome back to the show. And also, please welcome back our good friend Matthew for another very in depth preview of some players the Hurricanes could potentially draft. And the draft is actually right around the corner. It is now on Friday. Also, everybody, if Matthew does suddenly disappear, he's having some weather there. We may experience some technical difficulties because of that. Please be patient with us. We will do our best to still get through everything tonight. Matthew.
Take warning.
Yeah, warning of weather.
That's right.
I mean, I think that was the best slogan. I mean, I may be biased. I don't know what would give that, but
gotcha. Yeah. Again, yep. It's good to be back on here, Brandon. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to the draft tomorrow. I should be able to join you tomorrow. I was checking. I think all goes well. Should be able to at least join for at least a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it for sure. They'll see how crazy it will be. Elliot Friedman said he expects it to be kind of crazy. I don't know. Every time I hear that, I'm thinking like just everyone's going to make their pick, and that'll be it.
Yeah.
And the Hurricanes will trade back. They'll be the only one who will.
Yeah.
Because we can't have nice things.
If Mason West is available at 28th and we don't take him, though, I will be very mad.
As these things have taught me, especially being a Mets fan, has taught me, get used to disappointment.
Yeah. No, I actually just had to turn the game off just now because I noticed it was reflecting in the Top Gun poster, and I didn't want to take the chance of MLB copywriting this video because I've heard of them doing stuff like that where it's like, oh, well, technically you can see the game, so
Right. Well, I am excited to get into this. I am really looking forward to previewing another 5 people that I think the Canes could draft. The other 5 people that we talked about last time, I think are still probably more likely, at least definitely the people I probably like a little bit more than these, especially Mason West. But I still think these are people worth going over. They may go in the second or third round, perhaps some of them. Oh, and speaking of which, I actually have a little bit of an update on Ivan Ryabkin. Because I know he was generating some buzz even when we were doing the stream. Since then, the buzz has only gotten louder. I was even told, actually, I was on a stream of, or I was following a stream of Will Scouch at Scouching Report. And I asked him, like, where do you actually expect Ryabkin to fall? Because he has just been dropping like a stone. And he told me, it's actually on the stream live, that he expects Ivan Ryabkin to be the Shadur Sanders of this draft, that he will plummet.
Well, I mean, if he's available, the Canes might as well get him. I mean, you got nothing
might
to lose
as well.
Yeah,
and like nothing has changed on the tape. I mean, like the combine apparently didn't go so well for him. Apparently his interviews didn't go well. I don't know how well he knows English. And we can talk about that because the combine for a couple of players you were talking about were quite relevant. But yeah, apparently his combine didn't go well, and that hurt him some more. I'm still a believer in the upside of Ryabkin, and if he's going to fall that late, if he's going to fall to like 3rd, 4th, 5th round, I definitely think the Canes should take him. If it's going to, he's definitely worth a 4th round pick for sure. And I still believe, he's got some issues to iron out. He's got to, stop going to the box so much. He's got to learn how to be he's got to grow and mature and to be a better person. But don't we all?
Yeah. So, this is where we get Svechnikov.
Like to take him.
If the Canes do draft him, this is where Rod goes to Svechnikov and be like, you take care of this. I had this problem with you already.
Yeah, that's right.
But I mean, the one thing with the combine though, a guy by the name of Sam Bennett, you may have heard of him. At his combine, he couldn't do a pull-up.
Not a one.
And people were so concerned about that. And I'm like, wait until a trainer gets a hold of him. That will not be a problem for long. So, like, he probably was able to do a pull-up within a matter of weeks after that, if not sooner.
Yeah, and now he's a Conn Smythe winner. Go figure.
Yeah, a Conn Smythe winner, 2 back-to-back Stanley Cups. It's like the pull-up, I guess, wasn't that big of a problem. We'll get to the couple of comments we got here because I get 2 that I expected every single time I do one of these. BTS, first man in, always says hello. Good to see you, friend. And here's Chance with his trade Sean Walker for work draft. This dude, every stream he comes in here, the first thing he says, trade Sean Walker.
What has he got? Like, what's wrong with him?
I don't think he has. I don't really think he has anything against Sean Walker. I think it's kind of like his version of me and the Brady Shea thing. People think that I despise Brady Shea, and I don't. It's just that joke started. Like, I was serious that I think Gossespierre is better than him. But then I was like, you know what? I'm really upsetting people with saying these things about Brady Shea that I don't actually mean. Everyone who knows me knows that I don't mean any of these things that I'm saying about Brady Shea, but I'm getting entertainment of people getting pissed off. I'm going to run with this. And that's
What's
what I
another thing you
did.
got a lot of trouble for? You like spun every single team name into some kind of, murder pun or something like that.
Yeah, like the dude that hangs out with Jordan Smaltz all the time that calls himself Heat Daddy or something like that.
Right.
Whatever. I mean, I remember my first Xbox 360 name, but it's like he said something about Hurricanes mascots causing people to be on what basically he was saying that the Hurricanes were an offensive name. And I was like, dude, if you really break it down, every single mascot has killed someone or something at some point.
Yeah, predators. That is my response to that.
Sharks, avalanche. You can go down the line. And the one that I found the most profound, as I said, someone has probably stepped on a maple leaf, slipped on it, and died because of it.
Probably one of their fans.
Throughout the entirety of human history, that has happened by now. There is no way that it hasn't. It's like, okay,
if someone is responsible for someone's death somewhere.
Yeah, it's like it's in some way or another it happened. They accidentally ate one and it was poisoned. I don't know, but there's a 0% chance it hasn't already happened.
That is hilarious. That is awesome. Oh, and just repping here. I'm not going to turn around because I don't really have room, but this is an Akishin jersey that I decided to splurge on because he is our boy now. The only question for him is like, when will he become the top LHD on the team? When will he actually take over for Slavin? Because I think he will at one point. Slavin's 30 right now, right? I mean,
yeah.
Now he can play for another 10, maybe even more years. Can Slavin, but at some point he'll slow down enough to he'll have to be bumped down the lineup. And the question is when. And at that point, Nikishin will take over the top job.
Yeah, because Nikishin's going to be in all situations, guys. Slavin is capable of that, but he's not really. He's not your first choice to put on a power play. Not because he can't do it. It's just there's better options, and he already eats a ton of minutes anyway.
Right. He does. What he does elsewhere is too important. So,
yeah.
But yeah, Nikishin will be Chris Pronger level good. But okay. Let's start with. I wanted to start with Daniel Prokhorov. Did you want to get the disclaimer out of the way, or?
Yeah, I'll do the disclaimer real quick. Also, these are in the order that you sent me in the email, just like last time, as far as what players you wanted information in there. I forgot to list elite prospects, but your name is all over this in all the screenshots that I took elite prospects. I promise I'm giving you your credit because I really love your website. Also, I want to give a shout out to moneypuck.com. I tagged them and told them that their site was having some issues, and they actually messaged me to ask me details about it to try and get it fixed. So good on you guys for that. Natural Stat Trick has never returned any, but they almost never have technical difficulties. That site is so bare bones. Money Puck's got all the bells and whistles on it with the colors of the graphic design and everything, but just this is the don't sue me page. So
sure. Especially with Money Puck, the deserve to win meter beating the bane of the Hurricanes' existence.
Yeah, and that thing is, the day that we're finally not in the good graces of the deserve to win meter, I'm gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna win the cup.
Yep, yeah, that's
exactly what I'm gonna say. All right, buddy.
All right.
It's all
and
yours.
on that note, let's talk about Daniil Prokhorov. Shame on me for not mentioning him in our last stream because I had written him down, but I had written his name before the other Russians and not with them, so I just he slipped my mind when we were doing the stream. But he is definitely someone we need to keep an eye on. Daniil Prokhorov is currently playing in Russian junior hockey, and he is an absolute load. 6'6", 218, the definition of a power forward. He loves to hit and he loves to score. He goes to the net, he bangs bodies, and he just lives in the front of the net and bangs them in. And this sounds like everyone's dream, right? He's enormous, he's violent, and that lightning bolt hit right by my house.
That's a sign. He's coming to Carolina.
He's coming to Carolina.
Canes are drafting him.
Whether it's the first round, and speaking of where he should be drafted, I put down in my notes probably early to mid-second round. He could go first. He has probably risen faster than anyone else in this draft. He would just a few months ago, 3 months ago, he was someone who people knew about. They were he might need to even be drafted though. And if he was, it was probably going to be very late rounds. But he has just shot up the draft boards because of the things we mentioned earlier. He's enormous, he's violent, and he loves to go to the net. However, that is all he can do. He literally really can't do anything else right now. And I actually heard a different stream, a channel, say that basically if Prokhorov hits, he's going to be the James Harden equivalent of of NHL players. Which if you like him, then you like him. If you don't, then you don't. But that's kind of, I can see it definitely, because he's got that nose for the net, enormous, loves to lay the body. Everything else needs a ton of work. His skating is clunky at best. His passing is poor if he ever even tries. Oftentimes he just never passes the puck. And that's something else. He doesn't really know how to use his teammates. He doesn't try to use his teammates. He's a puck hog. And then he just swings it out in front of the net and will try to stuff it in. And he can definitely do that. But every time like he even tries to pass the puck, it's usually a turnover. And so he has got to work on the other aspects of his game if he wants a job. But if he can, and if he does, a lot of people are saying like the upside here is even worth a second or maybe even first round pick. And I'm kind of hoping, I think he's way too risky for that personally, but I definitely like the upside. I definitely see the upside that he brings. And if he goes into like a third round or something like that, or maybe third, fourth, sixth round, if he actually does end up going way late, he's definitely someone I would definitely like the Hurricanes to take. I wouldn't do it with the first round pick though. What are your thoughts here, Brandon?
Well, one thing that I do like about that, if you look at the Hurricanes and their current trajectory with the roster that they have now, one of the biggest, and it's a pretty valid one of the biggest complaints is we have too many playmakers and not enough guys who will be selfish at the right times and attempt to just say, fine, I'll do it myself and put the puck in the net. And this guy sounds like someone who can power. I haven't seen any video of him or anything, but based on what you're describing to me here, sounds like someone who will try to take over a game in select situations where you need a goal. Maybe not the best guy to have out there when you're ahead and the other team's pulled the goalie and you got to deal with the extra attacker. But as far as like you go out there, it's 6-on-5, our goalie's out, you need to go out there and do something. This sounds like a player that could be good for that. And the Hurricanes do not have enough of those. Like
True.
The Hurricanes lack size. They lack physicality. And they lack scoring. That. Yeah. So like if this guy is one of those players who can really do some of those things, be selfish at the right times, use his size, use his frame, go to the front of the net, cause some issues there, and bury those pucks in close, I can care less if he's good at passing it as long as he's not making a ton of money. So if we're talking this kid potentially being a fourth line center with a high offensive upside that just likes to go out there and hit people and put pucks in the net. Oh, he's a winger. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm thinking about one of the other ones. I'll remember his name in a second. One of the other ones that you put in here for me, because I haven't watched any of these guys. I've only done reading about them. But I can definitely see the Hurricanes needing a player like this, especially with there's too many playmakers on the Hurricanes. There's too many guys who are selfless at all the wrong times. And even Aho is. And I remember back in what I believe was Aho's best season, the 1920 season, he did plenty of the playmaking, but he had 38 goals and there were still 14 games to go before the season was stopped. I want to see more selfishness like that out of him. And if we can find that from elsewhere, maybe this is a good pick.
Yeah. And I agree. I'm fine with having, a bottom six, but like kind of specialist that, he's really good at one thing and you put him on the ice when you need that thing. And if that thing is just go to the net and stuff it in, I don't care how. I don't care if you shove yourself in the goalie into the net, just get it in there and we'll worry about the rest later. He's actually big enough, and I've seen a clip of where he scored, where he's big enough where he can do the wraparound. Marty Necas loved to do the wraparound, but he would have to tuck it short side. He can tuck it far side, which is he is big enough to do, where he can skate around the back around to the net and actually reach around the goalie entirely and tuck it home far side. Not a lot of people
impressive.
Are good enough or big enough to do that, and he can. I think I've only ever seen it happen once with the Hurricanes, and I think it was Jordan Staal who just kind of lucked into it.
I remember
Jordan
that
Staal
one.
Is kind of big enough to do it, but yeah, he actually he does that with intent. He does that intending to swing it around to do a wraparound far side shot, and he can score with that. So
we'll look at some of his stats here.
Yeah, look, he's kind of like, if you look at his his NHL stats this past year, he's almost got the Cy Young thing. 20 goals, 7 assists. Again, his passing is just bad. is just bad at this point. And even like it has to improve in order for him to have a job at the NHL, because like even if like you're not a playmaker, you still have to be able to use your teammates. You have to be able to work give and goes and things like that. He cannot do that yet. So that is something he's going to have to develop in order for him to work at the NHL. And anything is possible. He can definitely do it. Like I think with the right coaching staff, the right development, and if he's committed to it, he can definitely develop those skills. But he does not have them, and he will need them.
Yeah, and the give and go is a great example of a play that gets a lot more complicated when you get to the NHL level because of how much faster the game is. Defensemen typically have better gap control, forwards work harder to get back and everything. You have a lot less time and space. So I can definitely see that being a good example of like some of the things that he needs to work on. And it's not like that he has to totally transform his game into being a puck distributor. It's not like that he has to become an absolute defensive stalwart. If you're talking about a bottom six winger who's got an offensive upside, a specialist, as you put it, he has to refine those things and integrate them into his game a little bit more at the NHL level. And that's not just for the Hurricanes, that's for anybody. Yeah. And if he can do those things, then he becomes a much more valuable player, and he doesn't really have to change what he's doing. He just kind of have to supplement other parts of his game.
Something else I should mention that he does very well is he can protect the puck like nobody's business. It's mostly because he, unlike with Mason West, who needs to learn how to use his body a little bit better, not really knock him. It's just something he acknowledges that he needs to work on it. Daniel Prokhorov uses his body effectively to shield the puck. People try. It is almost impossible to knock him off the puck when he has it in the offensive way. He's really good at the cycle game because he'll just take it on the boards. He can work. He's really comfortable in that kind of space. People like try to shake him off the puck. He just shrugs him off like a fly. He is a really like horse back there on the puck when he has it, and he loves to have it. That's the thing. It's you give him the puck. When his teammates give him the puck, they probably aren't getting it back. That's
that can help the Hurricanes too. With very possession driven team. Yeah. So someone who can make things happen when they have the puck, and it not turn into a game of pong, that would be nice to see once in a while. I would love for the Hurricanes to have at least a couple of guys that take that hesitancy to shoot out of their game, and this sounds like a player that could potentially do that. Yeah, Svechnikov. And I'm like, when Svechnikov is shooting the puck, he plays great. The first 2 rounds of the playoffs, he shot the puck a lot, and look at the results.
He got knocked off. Florida got under his skin.
Yeah, Florida got under the whole team's skin, though.
They did. Yeah, that's true. They do that. Yeah, they knock him off his game there. But yeah, like his Svechnikov, he is good enough to beat a goalie clean from the circle. Like his shot is that good, and no goalie can stop it. Like when he can find that spot, just shoot the freaking puck more, Svech. Golly. All right. Anyway, okay. Next one, Shane Vensagi. Speaking of the combine here for a little bit, Shane Vensagi was a standout at the combine. He showed top in many categories. I think he was top in top 5. I think he actually led the whole combine in grip strength. I know he was number 1, and I think in his right hand, and number 3 in his left. So he is probably one of, if not the physically strongest players in the draft. So that is actually quite impressive. And I'll just, of course, read the prospects guide here. After breaking plays and getting some space in the neutral zone, Vensagi carries the puck in, dangles around defenders, fires a missile to the top of the net. He bypasses 6 in his firing motion, dragging the puck toward him to release and aiming through defenders. On top of those skills, Vensagi also has his moments as a playmaker, landing passes in transition and from below the goal line. Under heavy pressure, he seems to retain an awareness of the ice and the ability to add a touch of deception to his feeds. Instantly after the pass, he gets open for a return feed, showing an above-average tactical understanding of the game. Good hockey IQ on Vensagi. He'll also be, I think, a pretty decent power forward. Pretty good size, too, at a 6'2", 216. That's a bit of a load as well. And he also loves to be physical. He loves to lay the body. He's hard. Like I said, he's one of the strongest players in the draft. His very, very balanced offensive skills. So I like what he brings a lot. His issues, I would say, he's a bit of a clunky skater as well. So he could work on his motion there. And, I don't really see a top 6 forward from Vensagi at the NHL. He is, I believe, right-handed. He plays center or wing. So he could be, a third or fourth line center or wing. He probably could do any of those sides. I doubt he'll be a top 6 player, but you never know. I'd say a good comparable for him is Jesper Fast. And I forgot to mention for Prokhorov, I'd say if he hits and he does well, I'd say his comparable is someone like Tom Wilson.
Yeah.
And that's, he's He's one of those guys where, if he's on your team, you love him. If not, you despise him. And I could see Prokhorov turning into someone like that. For Vansagi, I actually see a lot of Jesper Fast here. Jesper Fast was, of course, willing to lay the body. He could put on a nice, good shot when he wanted to, had a really balanced game. And, maybe not the best skater, but he could get from A to B. And I see a lot of very similarities with Vansagi as well, except maybe a little bit stronger.
Yeah. Anytime that the Canes can draft a complete player, I like for them to do it, or someone who has the foundation to be a complete player, because the philosophy that the Hurricanes approach the game with is it might get tweaked a little bit here and there, but it's not going to change. And Rod wants a 200-foot game out of everybody. Rod wants a well-balanced game out of everybody. Now, going back to the draft guide here, this is actually a lot for the sample paragraph that they give you on elite prospects. Normally, it's not this long.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot,
Expensive.
and it's all descriptive of different elements of the game. It's not like they're talking about one thing that he does really well over and over again. They're talking about, okay, so something along the lines where you're like a playmaker. You land a pass in transition from below the goal line, and then you find open ice immediately after. There's a lot of times where a lot of players like, okay, I landed the pass, now what do I do? And he has that hockey IQ, it sounds like, that knowledge of the game to say, all right, there's open ice, but is it the right open ice? If I have two different places that I can go, do I want to go to the front of the net, or do I want to try and open up in the back door? Do I want to go back below the goal line? It sounds like he reads the play really well in advance, and he makes decisions really quickly based on that.
Hockey IQ.
From what I'm saying here. Hockey IQ. Yeah, and his specifically tailored to making plays with possession in transition really quick on his feet with stuff like that. Now, quick with his reaction time, I should say. Now, as far as clunky skaters go, my personal belief is that skating can be improved for a decent amount of your career. One thing I've always wondered is if Jesperi Kotkaniemi took a summer of just not doing anything else and didn't even touch a stick all summer and just worked on his skating. I just don't think it's in the kid's DNA.
Yeah. I remember you said that about a year ago, like even before last season about KK. And I said, yep, that's exactly what he needs. And it's clear he didn't do it.
Yeah, that's what I think that he should do, is just like put the stick down for the summer, to take power skating lessons, take figures. And it's not like they don't do work on power skating over the summer and everything. But as far as like, I would just love to see him have that one particular focus. Skating is one of those things that I think can be improved for well into your career, actually. The reason I say that, I can't remember his name, but Sidney Crosby's skating coach, he works with him a lot. And he still works with him. And you would say, oh, but hasn't Sidney Crosby already kind of hit his ceiling with what he's capable of in skating? Maybe if he's looking at it himself. But if you're talking about from the outside looking in, someone else who is trained to spot those things, someone who has that ability to spot those things, then he can say, hey, do this a little bit differently, pitch forward a little bit more, whatever. You might lose some bad habits. And it's like someone who is batting 350 for 60 games, and then all of a sudden they fall off a cliff. And a lot of times they just need to make a small adjustment to their stance, and next thing you know, they're back to normal. It's kind of the same thing with skating.
Yeah, and how do you think Crosby has maintained his level of excellence even to what? Is he 38 years old now?
Yeah, and he did that because
he's still putting up like MVP numbers. It's insane.
Yeah, and it's because he definitely placed an emphasis on his edge work. And, it's like he got older and got a little bit slower, but it didn't really affect his game that much. So, like, skating is one of those things that, like, it can be worked on and tweaked. And my personal belief is, at least for some players, it can be worked on until the day you're done playing. I really think that it's one of those things that you can make adjustments to it to where it doesn't fall off a cliff. Like, okay, for example, Justin Williams was not the greatest skater, but he adapted over and over and over and over. And when he got to the last years of his career, even he said something about, okay, at this point, it's not about getting any faster. It's about not losing a step. You do get to that point eventually. But I'm a firm believer that skating is one of those things that you can, in some way or another, adjust and improve on until you're done playing. That's one thing that anybody who's not good at it, because if you think about it, everybody in this league now is a good skater. There are no more George LaRocques or anyone like that. It's like everyone has to be able to skate. You're not going to see many more James Neals or TJ Oshie's or Patrick Maroon. Like those days are over. Yep. Like you have to be able to skate to play in this league now.
That's one, yeah, and this comes up a lot in the people that we're going to talk about, with one exception. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why I had the other 5 people that we in our last stream ahead of them, ahead of the people that we're talking about here. So yeah, because of the skating mechanics that need work for, I think, the forwards that we're talking about, whereas the other basically all 5 other forwards that we talked about in the first stream have that skating basically pretty much figured out. Of course, there's always an improvement, but they're definitely ahead of the 3 forwards that we're going to mention here tonight. So yeah, and the Hurricane specifically are kind of built around being able to skate well. And when someone doesn't, like KK, it stands out.
Yeah.
And that's why, even though I think he's got the tailor-made, kind of everything else that KK does is tailor-made for being a good penalty killer. But the reason he's not is because he cannot skate as well as you need to in order to keep up on the penalty kill. Because I like, as long as he's been here, I'm like, why isn't he killing penalties? Oh, that's why.
Yeah, that's what lacks, because like the thing I've noticed with KK skating, he's clunky. He's one of the clunkiest skaters I've ever seen. And if you're new to the show and you think I don't like Jesperi Kotkaniemi, you are dead wrong. I've been advocating to keep that kid for years.
Fans, yeah.
I'm in the top 5 of Jesperi Kotkaniemi advocates, but I've never said that he was a good skater. Now he'll skate circles around me and everyone I play with at 11:30 at night on a Wednesday.
Like George LaRock would skate around us.
But yeah, he would. It's like people are like, oh well, he can't skate. And I'm like, I've seen SPHL players who skate better than Jesperi Kotkaniemi, but he's still in the league for a reason. And it's like I've noticed, like, you can kind of point out little things that are wrong with someone skating. Brady Shea, for example, he was a pretty fast dude once he got going. His first 2 or 3 steps were pretty slow. With Kotkaniemi, it's like there's that attempt to do the choppy, quick crossovers to get into his stride, and the momentum just dies before he goes into full forward motion. And the only thing that keeps him going is his stride length and inertia. And he just can't put that together. He's one of those players that you can't really point out little things wrong with his skating because it's all messed up. And that's the only thing that I would be reluctant drafting someone who has issues with that, because while they can be worked out, sometimes they don't, i.e. KK.
Yep, all good points. That to say that Shane Vinsagi, he's already playing college hockey, NCAA at Michigan State, which is Brendan Moore's alumni. He'll like that. 16 points, 37 games doesn't, scream huge offensive talent. But as, I guess he was playing there as, maybe he was even 17 years old. So he still got room to grow there for sure. Again, I would say likely a bottom 6 forward here for Vinsagi, but a good one and a very projectable one as well. I think that probably wraps it up on him, unless you have anything else.
Nope. I will say this. So one thing, if I could get a Michigan State Brendan Moore sweater, I would pay a small fortune for it, because he wore 21 on that team.
Nice.
So I would love to have that one.
There's one out there somewhere. Let's talk about the goalie.
I'm just not ready to give up $1,000. I will say this though. This is the coolest name I've seen on the draft board.
Ravensburgen.
I love that name. That's so cool.
Very German name, although I'm pretty sure he's Canadian. Yeah. He's a Canadian goalie. An imposing 6'5" goaltender who moves well and has elite play reading. Ravensburgen doesn't have to look flashy because he's always in the right position. He challenges shooters appropriately, which can lead to situations where he simply engulfs the entire net because of his size. That's very good for Ravensburgen here. I wrote down as good assets. He's obviously large goaltender, 6'5". I even think that's bigger than Freddie. I think Freddie is 6'4", and
I believe so.
Yeah, so he's even already, and he could get bigger. So he may not be done growing, but he is already an imposing 6'5". I wrote down athletic, aggressive, and he challenges very well, like it says here, and he can just take away all of the net from the shooter. And something else I put down here that's quite rare, and which is probably why he is a first-round talent as a goaltender, is that he doesn't get rattled. A lot of young goalies, if you can get in their heads, you can rattle them. They can give up a lot of goals and several goals in quick succession. Ravensburgen, I think, is already pretty ahead of the game that when he does get scored on, which is inevitable, he is able to put it behind him and just move on to the next shot. And that's a skill that, frankly, Pyotr Kochetkov does not have yet. And so I really, really like to see that with Ravensburgen. The only con I wrote down there is that he needs to improve on his rebound control, direct them to the corner, and just swallow the puck. But that's also typical for young goaltenders also. And lately the way drafts have been going with goaltenders is that Canada has not produced a good goalie in a while. And so that has some people concerned, not because of anything specific, just because the CHL, which is where he plays, Canadian Hockey League, goalies have not really shown out in several years. I think the last really, really good one, frankly, just retired, and that was Marc-Andre Fleury.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, can you think of a really, Bennington?
Well, I mean, it's like, if you think about who Canada's goalies were that they selected for the Four Nations.
Yeah, Bennington, that's the best they got.
Yeah, and Logan Thompson had to get hosed for that to happen because I thought he was playing out of his mind and it should have been him.
Yeah.
So it's like, so let's see, who did they have on that team? I'm going to try and go off of memory. It was Logan Thompson, Jordan Bennington. Trying to remember the other two on the Four Nations team.
I can look it up.
Yeah, because I remember the USA, it was Hellebuck, Ottinger, and Swayman. Like, I have such an easy time naming the U.S. goalies because that's three of the best in the business right there, at least in the regular season.
Oh, yeah, it was Bennington. Then it was Aiden Hill and Sam Montembeault.
Yeah, see that. Okay, in what other century would a goalie the caliber of Sam Montembeault be the third goalie on that team?
Yeah, and Aiden Hill, like, he got hot. He got hot at a time. Won Vegas Cup. Well done. Hey, well done. But he is not. None of them are better than Logan Thompson.
No, not even close. Like. So I see what you're saying about that, about Canada having a little bit of a fall off at that position. And every country deals with something like that. Like the Finns, for example, their defense is thin. After Heiskanen, it's not very dynamic.
Yeah, and even in this year's draft, there are like I think the top rated Finn was like slated for like the third round. They're having the Finns are not showing up in this draft class.
Mm-hmm.
And they've actually had a rough go of it in the last couple of years in terms of drafting, but I digress. Back to Ravensburgen. He could break that mold. Of recent a recent dry spell in terms of Canadian goaltending. He'll definitely be in the World Junior team. I think he's by far the best they have. And if we take him, he'll be instantly our best goaltending prospect in our pipeline. And goaltenders take a long time to develop, but the fact that he really has the poise reminds me of Freddie Anderson. And of course, we know Freddie well. And I don't just pick Freddie Anderson because he's our goalie and we know him, but really like the ability to whatever is happening during the game to just forget about it and move on. Whether you get a shutout, whether you're giving up one goal, or whether you're giving up your fifth, he understands that, hey, things happen and I have a job to do and my job is the next shot. And, just skates it off, splash water on your face and get ready. And that is a very mature trait that you don't see often in very young goaltenders. No. So I think that for that reason, he'll probably go before 29th. And I estimate he'll probably go around 24, 25, that area. I don't think he'll be available for us. But and we have stated publicly that we will never take a defenseman in the first round. But I didn't hear the same thing about a goaltender. And we need one in our pipeline for sure.
We're thin at the goaltender position, and we're paying for it now. And you know what's funny about it? Once upon a time, the first time that the Hurricanes had Freddie Anderson when they drafted him, and he ended up going back into the draft because let's see who all was on the team then. There was Cam Ward, or in the pipeline. As far as if you're talking about the entire depth chart of goaltenders, Cam Ward,
Justin Peters.
Was
Johnny Graham on the team at the time? I think he was.
I can't remember, but I remember we had the Canes had 4 or 5 goals. Was Boucher one of them?
Brian Boucher? No, we never had him. We had Manny Legacy for a hot minute.
Manny Legacy, that's what I was trying to think of. But you remember the time frame I'm talking about, around the time Freddie Anderson got drafted the first time when the Canes drafted him. Yeah. There were 4 or 5 goalies in the pipeline then, and that's why he re-entered the draft, because he thought he was never going to play. And then everything totally fell apart at that position.
Your boy did it.
So I hope that the organization took that historical note and put it on a sticky note on their desk and said, we're not going to let this happen again. Because in a way, the Canes are still paying for that, because Nedeljkovic didn't work out. And a lot of people were upset when he got traded. I wasn't. I didn't see
history proved us right on that there.
People panicked about that. They panicked about Jake Bean. I'm like, No, I've seen enough
Like,
Ryan Murphys around here. Get him out of here. I was like, I can't take this anymore. But yeah, the Canes are thin at that position. And another interesting fact here, he's a full right goalie. So that would be the first time that like I've seen a full right goalie get drafted high
yeah,
since
southpaw
Tomas
goaltender.
Vokoun. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell.
Yaroslav Askarov.
Askarov. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, Askarov is, and honestly, he's someone I wanted at the time, but we got Jarvis, so I'd say it worked out okay.
I'd rather have Seth Jarvis than 10 Yaro Askarovs. Seth Jarvis is not just what he is as a player. He's like
everything.
The identity of the team at this point. And he's one of the funniest people I think that they've ever had in that locker room, man. He's got to be good at keeping the mood light.
He is a character, that's for sure. And and as far as Ravensburgen goes here, I think he could actually crack an NHL lineup sooner than most goalies. I think he could probably make his debut in maybe 2 years, at maybe around age 20 or 21. I think he could actually see some action. Again, maybe not a start, maybe a relief appearance or something like that, but I think he could get into the NHL quite fast for a goaltender. And so I mean, I like taking forward talent because it's the most expensive and it's really hard to come by through other means. Like in terms of really, when you think about how does a team acquire players, there's 3 fundamental ways. There's draft, free agency, and trade. And the forward talent really has to come through the draft for the most part, because when you get the good goal scoring, when you get the scoring points, teams are just so stingy to trade it because it's so valuable. That's where the market is. That's where the dollars are. And so it's not only expensive to sign, because we know Marner, and I'd love to get Marner. He's going to be stupidly expensive. No matter who signs him, it's going to be too much. Wherever he goes, it's going to be too much. And that's the market. That's what happens when you have a premier 100-point player hit free agency. It's going to be stupidly expensive. And likewise for trading them, like even if a team is willing to give up, a good Buffalo notwithstanding, because they just traded JJ Peterka for probably a lot less than they should have, even though I'm not the hugest Peterka fan. I think they could have gotten more.
I didn't realize how coveted he was around the league. Like when I started seeing like Rossi was on the table for him from Minnesota. Oh, and by the way, I did double check one thing real quick. Brian Boucher was in the Hurricanes organization at one point. Because I was trying to remember all the goalies the Canes had around that time, and I'm like, his name was floating around in my head. And I'm sitting there thinking, because I know it was around the same time. It was Cam Ward, Justin Peters, maybe Anton Hudobin was in around that time. Anton Hudobin was in there around then. Funny story. My dad's girlfriend saw him play.
That was the years after that.
Oh no, Eddie Lack was later.
Later, yeah.
That was and then came the Scott Darling era. God.
Mercy.
Yeah, I remember going to opening night the year that Mrazek started on opening night. When the Hurricanes broke the drought later that season. And I was like, Mrazek is better than Scott Darling by several miles. I'm like, and especially since he actually comes out to play the puck. Now, does he get a little over aggressive with it like Kochekov does? Yeah, but I'd rather have somebody who plays like that than someone who like looks like he's Swiss cheese out there like Scott Darling did. But definitely, if the Hurricanes draft a goalie in the first round and it's this kid, or because it sounds like he's one of a kind in this draft based on what you're describing here as far as high picks, then I wouldn't be upset with the Hurricanes maybe getting a goalie, because they're pretty deep everywhere except at the goaltending position. And as far as potential top 6 centers, as far as depth centers and everything, good to go. Wingers, you got Nadeau coming up who could potentially be a top 6 sniper. So I'm actually kind of really, if they don't draft Mason West, I'll be pissed unless they draft Joshua Ravensburgen.
He's your next guy after that. Yeah.
He's my next guy after Mason West, just from a perspective of needs. For
sure. Yeah, I definitely can see that. Ravensburgen, I couldn't hate the pick, because goaltending is one of those, it's often said it's like it's voodoo, what we've seen. I think Henrik Lundqvist was a 7th round pick. And then there's a fairly recent first round goalie pick. I think it was like there's Sebastian Kassa. There's what's that Swedish guy? Wallstedt.
Yeah.
He was also drafted in the first round. Hasn't worked out for either of them yet. They could. They're still young. They still got some time to get there. But, so a goaltender, it's like, I don't know how frankly, I do not know how goaltending scouting works, like at all. Like, I mean, I can read the stuff and I can see when I read it and I watch him, I can see it. I say, yeah, I see these things that you're telling me. But in terms of like what really stands out from one goaltender to another, see with Ravensburgen, he's got the between the ears thing figured out way ahead of other goaltenders. I see every goalie challenge. I see every goalie, a lot like they've put an emphasis on playing the puck. Most goalies are crazy athletic and crazy quick reflexes. So I really don't know what makes one, a Vezina all-star 15-year career goaltender and another a washout. To me, it's like I just don't really get that. But at the same time, he's definitely the best, I think, in the class, at least as far as what I can tell. And there are some other Russian goaltenders that will probably be available in the later rounds, second and on, that we could take a look at for sure. But yeah, I really like Ravensburgen in the goaltending class here in this draft. He's big, he's smart, he's athletic, and he's very poised.
So I guess I'll update my order for tomorrow night because my top. So I was going to ask you to do the same thing before tomorrow night. Pick 5 guys in order of the ones that you would really want. And we have a consensus on number 1 already. But my original, like I decided my top 3 were Mason West, Colin Potter, and Milton Gastrin. Now Joshua Ravensburgen is in second, and Cotter and Gastrin are third and fourth, respectively.
I definitely like that. I would definitely have Potter in the top 5 as well. Gastrin, I'll have to think about a little bit more. But I initially hadn't really considered Ravensburgen to be a top 5, but now that we're talking about him, and now that I'm hearing your thoughts as well, I could definitely have him in the top 5 for sure. I think he could have a spot there. That's good stuff. If the Hurricanes don't trade the pick for a player or trade back,
I'd rather them draft this guy than trade back this time. The Canes are so thin at the goaltending position.
Yeah,
get a damn goalie, and if he's already got like the mental game part kind of figured out and everything, you can improve the athleticism with age. He's going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger. And all that type of stuff, and then he's going to have
he's already pretty athletic.
He's already athletic as it is, but that's only going to get better as he grows into his full body and everything. Like, so, that seems to me like it would be an easier problem to solve than trying to get him reined in like the Canes have been trying to do with Kochekov for years. So I'm on board with drafting this kid based on everything that you've shown me here.
Yeah. Definitely best goalie in the draft, and he'd instantly be the best Canes goalie prospect by a lot. Okay, I'm ready to move to the next one here. Yeah. So this guy, we did mention him briefly in our last stream. I think it's Heotsi or something like that is how you would say it.
I believe it's I believe the X is pronounced with an SH sound. I'm not sure though.
Heotsi or something like that, maybe like TS or something like that. Heotsi.
I believe so.
Someone will correct me, and I probably sound stupid. But he often goes by Simon, so I'll just call him Simon. Simon Wong is Chinese national, and I'm not sure if there have been any other Chinese nationals actually playing the NHL. I can't think of any. Maybe one.
The Islanders drafted one, but he never played for them. I can't remember his name though. Yeah.
Okay, so he would be a first then to crack the NHL if he does get there. Enormous defenseman, 6'6", 209. I put down here very rangy, big left-handed defenseman. The prospects guide says, in Wong, you get all the advantages of size without the usual drawbacks that come with it. He can flex his lower body, bring his knees over his toes, and drop his upper body at just the right angle to enable fast and smooth lateral pivots, crossovers, and backward strides. And that's great because that one of the things, his best attribute is his skating. And he's a defenseman, and he's enormous, and he can skate extremely well. So that is what is getting him a lot of looks. I've even seen a couple of mock drafts have him in the late first round. Mostly he's been considered a second or third round pick, but he's been climbing a bit because he is an enormous man and a fantastic skater. For he'd be a great skater even if it was like, much shorter. But the fact that he has the size and the skating and the positioning, he's a very solid defensive positioning. And so I really like that about him. Obviously, there is one ginormous hole in his game, though, and that's he basically doesn't have any offense, at least right now. If you check his stat line, I think it's in the Canadian Hockey League, in the Canadian Juniors. He's got I think 2 assists in 32 games. And this is Canadian Juniors where the numbers are supposed to be getting ridiculous. Honestly, when you look at that stat line, you think, why is this guy even considered to be a draft prospect? Well, it's because of he's enormous and he can skate and he can defend.
Well, that's one thing that indicates he's probably super good defensively, where they're like, oh, he's only got 2 assists, but if he's that good defensively, that's going to get overlooked.
Yeah. So that's definitely the trade-off with this player, is that as of right now, he has just no offensive game. He's like just a black hole with regards to offense, but he definitely shuts the other team down. He's going to be a great penalty killing defenseman. And, I mean, if that's again, he's a specialist as regards to defensemen. He's even Jacob Slavin is obviously most known and rightfully so for his shutdown defense, but he's got some mitts too. He can handle it. He can tangle it.
Yeah,
we've seen
he still chips in about 30 points a season too.
Yeah, he'll still get his good 30 to 40 points. I mean, with Wong, I think I put down his comparison. I think I put Jamie Alexiak.
Mm-hmm.
And that is I think he's a very similar pair of an enormous, rangy, left-handed defenseman who gets almost no offense, but still has a job and can still do that job well. And so the Hurricanes love skating and they love shutdown defense. So I could see him definitely be, a later round pick for the Hurricanes. They don't have a second round pick unless they trade back. So he's a potential trade back pick if that's what they end up doing. So I think it's worth mentioning. And yeah, I'd say early to mid second round is probably where he goes. The Hurricanes have a lot of left-handed defensemen in the pipeline, but his skating is definitely a standout, and his size. So they could go with it if they like it. If they don't like what they're seeing in regards to the other players available. And he's definitely got an interesting story being a Chinese national. I think his believe it or not, I think his father actually works for the Chinese government, which, there's some geopolitical intrigue there. But I think his mother was an enormous ice hockey fan, actually created a rink and I think even a league for him to play in when he was in China. Mm-hmm. And then he moved to Canada, where he started to obviously to play in more in earnest, and ended up in Canadian CHL, where he plays now. And so, yeah, that's what I've got on Simon Wong here. What are your thoughts?
Well, as far as the geopolitical aspect of things goes, with the amount of Russians that have been in the NHL, players from the Czech Republic when they were still a Soviet satellite, in Poland, or not Poland, Slovakia, I don't really foresee that being an issue. And I don't think the Canes are keeping the launch codes in Eric Tulsky's office. So I don't think that would be a problem personally, because there's been numerous players from former Soviet satellites that have played for the team while the Soviet, or for the NHL while the Soviet Union was still a thing.
Right.
So I honestly, I don't foresee that being an issue. I really don't. As far as what we're describing here with a purely shutdown specialist defenseman, one of the best parts about those, they are cheap.
They're cheap. Yep.
They are dirt cheap in a lot of occasions. Even with the cap going up, you're talking about this kid only making, and we're talking 3-4 years from now, he's going to be making what, maybe $4 million at the most? Because that'll be the going rate for a third pair shutdown guy. Maybe 4
I'd say even
million.
less. I'd say less. I mean, Gostisbehere gets a lot of points, and he's making $3 million a year.
Yeah.
So I'd say, I think Alexiak is around 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually think, $2 billion, $2.5 million is probably what you can get for a third pair shutdown D.
Yeah, I'm totally cool with bringing in a defenseman that doesn't have a ton of offense if that's his game, if he provides that much defense and everything like that. So I'm totally okay with drafting a player like that. If like you said, though, if the Canes draft this kid, it's either going to be because he fell down a lot, or they traded back and got their second pick or second rounder back, or trade him back to get a second round pick and then draft him with that. So I definitely would not place this pick super high as far as ones I would like for the Canes to get, but I wouldn't be upset if they did, because if we're projecting,
he's a player I'd like to have in the system. He'd be nice.
He'd be good to have in the system, and then if he can crack a lineup eventually, perfect. And then it's like the Canes have all this good shutdown ability between, if you want to factor in everybody, Slavin, Chatfield, Charles Alexis Legault, and then you add him in too. And, we'll throw Finn Sori in there. He's a little bit on the smaller side, but excellent skater. And that's how he defends so well. If he was 2-3 inches taller, I think he would be a mainstay third pair defenseman in the NHL, like we talked about last time. And I still think he can crack a lineup somewhere that's not so deep on the blue line, but it definitely wouldn't hurt to have him.
Yeah, you factor in our other deep prospects, just rattle them off, like the Russian Alexander Palavin. He is also a very defensively minded guy. Roman Shokirin. I think our Swedes, we have Nystrom and Forsmark and Franzen. I think Franzen's more offensive minded, but he's still there. And then, there's one other that's, of course, Badinka is obviously someone is in our pipeline too. All these guys are solid defensemen that we've got. We're really stocked. We're really stocked at the defensive position. So it's not really a big organizational need, but sometimes you just pick the best player available. And if the best player available is a big, enormous, rangy, smooth skating defenseman, then you might as well do it.
I agree. Absolutely. So I think I'd rank him about 6th on the ones that I would personally want the Canes to take, but wouldn't be a bad pick at all.
Sure. And now here's maybe someone who actually will crack my top 5, and Billy Zonin. I really like this player. I kind of wish maybe, I'm glad we're doing it now because I definitely wanted to give him his due. I'll read the profile. Constantly supporting teammates in all 3 zones. Zonin jumps to the aid of defensemen on the back wall, gets the puck back, offers timely passing options, moves the puck quickly in transition, orchestrating clever passing plays, and entries in the offensive zone. When no play is open, he falls back on his forechecking ability. Defenders retrieving the puck better hurry their play when facing Zonin. If they take too long to pass, the forward comes barreling down on them, pinning them to the wall, freeing the puck with his stick, and moving to an open teammate. That sounds exactly like the Canes game. That is chip and chase, go it, pound their D, get it back. And that's what Zonin does, and he does it quite well. So I think he's a player that Ron Brindamore would love. He's going to be a solid workhorse. He's got decent size to him as well, 6'2", 190. And I think he'll get bigger from that. He can fill out a little bit. I really like Zonin. I really like what he brings to the table. I put down, good size and physicality. 200-foot game. He's willing to go and back check and hard and do everything he can to cause a turnover to get the puck back. Good, hard, accurate shot. High hockey IQ. He's one of the smarter players in the draft, in my opinion. High hockey IQ there. We mentioned it also. The thing that's holding him back right now is the skating. And so that's, it's still a clunky stride, so it needs to improve. And consistency in the D zone, which a lot of younger players have. The willingness obviously is there. He's absolutely willing to back check. And he's pretty good at it. He just needs to be a little bit more consistent in his D zone coverage. And he's a center, left-handed center, I believe, but a center nonetheless. I'd say a good comparable to him was Adam Henrique. He's just, a solid workhorse center, probably third line, maybe second line if he really, really hits all of his potential offensively. But yeah, I see a lot of Adam Henrique in Billy Zonin, and I project him to go in the late first, early second round. He's actually been climbing, so he might not even. Now it'll actually surprise me if he gets to the second round. He already kind of plays a very, very similar game to what the Canes like and what Rod Brindamore likes. And he's very, very smart. And so I really like Zonin, and I think he'll be in my top 5 for sure.
Yeah. So one thing that, going back to what's described here in the Elite Prospects paragraph here. So that was one thing I noticed when I was watching the Prospects tournament last season when Carolina was playing against Nashville in the first game. Was that's something that Gleb Trikazov actually did pretty well. Was going in there. Gleb, I love Gleb. I hope he makes it, but I don't think he's going to now.
He's derailed by injury. It sucks.
I had high hopes for him, man. I really did. But the way he goes in there and he just kind of initiates a board battle because he knows he's going to win, because he knows he's got the size advantage, that he can get the leverage and that he can dig the puck out and he's going to overpower whoever his opponent is in that particular situation, even if it's more than one guy that he's got to fight with to get the puck back. So that's one thing. Guy. Even if it's a bigger guy, but he's just so strong and so rangy, and he knows how to position his body. And because board battles are an art, they're not a science. People watch them on TV, and they're not the most riveting thing while they unfold, but there is an art to them, like knowing how to dig a puck out. It's
like, how is Stankoven at 5'8", barely 160, so good at it?
Yeah, he's incredible at it. And he knows how to use his low center of gravity. Jarvis is good at it too. So it's like, those are things that you you can teach people how to do, but you really kind of learn it on your own, in my opinion, how to win a board battle. Because it's not just sitting there whacking the puck over and over again until it pops out. You got to think about where it's going and where you need to go next to make sure that they don't get it back, especially if you're in your end, because that can be catastrophic. So that's a really underrated skill set if this kid has it. And then you're talking about someone who can also create a lot of offense doing that as well, because he can make those quick little give and go plays and catch somebody when they're coming in the zone and, get them the puck in the high slot and give them a perfect opportunity to shoot, or, make a really quick, crisp centering pass, or in the case of the Canes, cycle it back out to the point. So another low percentage shot can come from the point and then he's there to go get it. So he really fits.
But yeah, I definitely, it's got, if, I could see him right on the Hurricanes right now. Like there's like a chip in, they go on a line change, their defense dirtles around for a bit. Zonin gets onto the ice and like, boom, he like catches a defenseman napping or something like that. And like, it just gets a little check in there that he's not expecting. He'll take the puck away and center and score. Like he already does that at the junior level in the Q, and he's got nice production. Now the Q is definitely an offensive league, but he's got really, really nice production there. Good, cool 83 points in 64 games. Again, QMJHL is definitely an offensive centered league. There's not a whole lot of defending there. But you still, that's the kind of production you want to see out of someone you drafted from the Q.
Yeah, well, I mean, even for the Q, 83 points in 64 games, that's a little bit above average numbers, even for the Q. And like, if you're doing that in the CHL, you're like, that's a pretty big deal. If you're doing it in the Western League, which is super defensively minded, like it's a very gritty league, that's incredibly impressive over there. That's why you don't see like a ton of offensive powerhouses come out of there. But like for the Jarvis did, but 83 points in 64 games in the Q it's not earth shattering, but it is above average.
Yep, it's solid, and I could definitely see Zonin being a good middle six. I think I'd put him as middle six forward here, probably wing, but he could probably do a little center if he had to. But yeah, I definitely see a solid, very projectable middle six forward here who definitely plays a Hurricane style game already. So he's definitely going to be in my top. I would not hate it at all. Of course, we love Mason West, but if I'm perfectly honest, I think that people are just too scared of his the fact that he plays in high school. And they shouldn't be, but they probably will. It's just that the pedigree there is probably going to scare some teams off. And Zonin is definitely ranked higher. And so, I'm not, if I'm perfectly honest, I'm not expecting the Hurricanes to draft Mason West at 29th. I would. So I've kind of already prepared myself for that, I guess. Maybe I didn't want to, like rain on your parade, Brennan, pour cold water on you. I've already prepared myself that we're not going to get him. But I couldn't hate it though if we got Billy Zonin. He definitely plays the Hurricanes game, and so I would like to have. I wouldn't be upset at all if we got him at 29th.
Well, I will say this. Here's why I think the Hurricanes would potentially draft Mason West if he's available at 29th. They go against the grain on a lot of stuff that a lot of other organizations won't. If his metrics look good, and if they think that they have a good player, I don't think they're going to care where they got him from, because the Hurricanes haven't been shy about drafting Russians, even at the height of the war and everything that was kind of killing their draft stock because they were getting stuck in the K, i.e. Nikishin. Right. I don't think that where he comes from would be as much of a factor to someone like Eric Tulsky, who looks at the game completely different than probably all the other GMs in the NHL, probably drastically different. I think that is like, he'll be like, oh, well, he played high school hockey, and Eric Tulsky's going to be like, all right, that's nice, but he's good and he fits a need. And I think the biggest factor for Tulsky would be what's his numbers look like, what's his metrics, because Carolina's front office is highly analytically driven. That's no secret. But if Mason West has the numbers, if he has something that they see that they take stock in that is what they need to draft him, where he comes from, I think is going to be a lot less relevant than, like, say, somewhere that's in a traditional market, if you will, like one of the New York teams or Minnesota even, or something like that. I think they would care more about that than a team like the Hurricanes, or even if you start talking about the Panthers or the Lightning, I don't think they're going to care about that either. But the Hurricanes, I really think won't care about that. If he's available, I think that there's a distinct possibility they draft him.
I'll say this. So, like, I'd say that the likelihood of the Hurricanes drafting Mason West is higher if they trade back. If they're still picking around the 40, like 38 to 44-ish range, then I'd say Mason West will probably still be available. Again, I have him ranked a lot higher than that, but I don't think most. I think we're a little bit out on a limb here, which I'm happy to be there, but I think most people have Mason West ranked around between 40 and 50.
Then the Hurricanes have a good play to make here. Take the first round pick, trade it back, draft West, draft Ravensburgen.
Ravensburgen probably won't last that long.
I know he won't last that long, but God, I would, if there was some way we could get them both, I would totally do that.
Here's like, I mean, what I wouldn't mind is getting both, like maybe a Mason West and then Prokhorov or even Yapkin, and getting like all of those three probably should be first round players in one draft, in which you have only one first round pick and only 6 picks overall. And so if the Hurricanes stay picking, if they trade back but stay around pick 40, then I'd say the likelihood of drafting Mason West goes up a lot. If they do pick at 29th, it's probably going to be someone like Zonin or Potter.
Mm-hmm. Potter is going to be the on-brand Hurricanes draft pick, like you said, because I watched some video of him and everything. I'm like, small, very fast.
Very good skater.
Very good skater. Like, his skating is incredible.
Dynamic.
Very dynamic.
Just can't argue with it.
No, he's literally got everything but size. But from what I've watched of him playing and everything, because I've watched some more of him since the last draft video we did, I'm kind of like, he doesn't play above his size in the sense that like Jarvis and Stankoven does, but he also looks like one of those players that wouldn't benefit really from being 6 inches taller. I just don't see that with him.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think it would change how he plays.
The size would be wasted on him.
Yeah. So I can definitely see that too, but like, fingers crossed for Mason West though. That's still who I'm hoping the Canes can get.
I agree. And I saved Zonin for last tonight of our profiles here, because I do think is actually quite likely, and he plays a very, very good game, a very similar game to the Hurricanes. And so that's basically what I had here for tonight. I mean, last stream we went over a lot of other picks to keep your eye on for the later rounds. Some other folks, people like Jacob Wozniak or William Moore, Cole Reshny. These are names to keep in mind. They're solid players that I wouldn't hate to have. Jack Nesbitt is another one that's out there. If perchance someone that's protected to go much higher falls, then so a player I would love to have is someone like Jake O'Brien. These are guys that are projected to go top 15, top 20. Jake O'Brien, it's another good one. Obviously, Frondell is probably going. He's probably going second now at this point. Like, Frondell has just shot up even higher. He was already projected to go top 10. Now he's ahead of people like Higgins, which I think is. I mean, if James Higgins, if he falls to Boston, I'm going to be very annoyed.
I'm surprised he's dropped down so much, because I mean, for a long time, I feel like that was the only name I was hearing about this draft was James Higgins.
Yeah, he was. I think going into the year, people thought he would go number 1 overall. Schaefer took over, and so Schaefer also had an incredible combine. So if the Islanders do pick first overall, which they probably should, and in fact, if they're looking to trade Noah Dobson, I think that the reason they're doing that is because they're going to take Schaefer.
Yeah, and then Misa's been sitting at second basically the entire time. I don't think he's going to move.
They might take Frondell. Frondell is probably the best center in the draft. And, he's another guy that can do it all. He's maybe not, again, maybe I'd say the floor for Frondell is second line center. So he is definitely going to have a long career in the NHL, again, with the floor of being just your second line center that you'll never be upset with. He could be a top franchise center, though. That's going to be now. San Jose already has Celebrini, so yeah, maybe they want to take. I mean, I'd probably take Misa just because he's more dynamic and he'll put up more points. But great teams are built down the middle, so yeah, I could definitely see Frondell going second. And still annoys me that New York Islanders lucked out to get. Now we're going to have to deal with Schaefer forever, because he's going to be annoying. He's another, like, I'd say he's, and I don't say this lightly, he's about as good as Nikishin. Or at least he could be that good. He's one of those guys who can do it all. Yep. And we're going to have to be now. I mean, it's not as scary, I guess, as like a McDavid going into your division, but he's still going to be a problem and a major annoyance that we're going to have to deal with for the New York Islanders for a long time.
Yeah. And, it's going to be kind of like a couple of seasons ago when the Metropolitan Division was just aggravating as hell to be in because you had 5 teams that were capable of making the playoffs: Carolina, Washington, the Rangers, the Islanders, and the Devils.
Oh, you'll never convince me, because at the time, when did it happen? 2012? Was that the realignment? You'll never convince me otherwise that Metro Division was put together to force the Hurricanes to relocate. It was put together as a division.
I've heard that theory before, and it makes sense.
They put us together with, at the time, Washington and Pittsburgh and all the New York teams in their prime. That was designed to shut the Hurricanes out and force them to move. You will never convince me otherwise.
That wouldn't surprise me. That would not surprise me at all.
Mm-hmm.
No, that wouldn't surprise me at all, though. It really wouldn't, because like there was this whole call from the entire hockey world. See, one of the funniest things that I ever found about that was all the people that said move the team back to Hartford, and I'm like, do you think the Lenovo Center gets invaded by road fans bad as it is? How bad do you think it would be in Hartford?
The Civic Center had it was all New Yorkers.
Yeah, that's like you're just giving. You're giving the Rangers, the Islanders, the Devils, and the Bruins additional home games. Yeah. That is it.
Yeah.
Like if that happens.
I mean, it really was a second Boston arena, was Hartford for ever.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you're watching this and you happen to be a longtime fan of the Whalers when they were there until 1997. That was a second TD Garden. I'm sorry.
It was. And see, the thing about it is, Whaler Kane, if you're watching this, please chime in, because you'll know the best, because he actually grew up a Whalers fan and followed the team. Me and my dad were actually talking contingencies of what we would do with our fandom should the Hurricanes move. And what we eventually concluded was that we were just going to follow them wherever they went. Even if they went back to Hartford, we were just going to stick with being fans of the team because we were already attached to it and everything. And, when there were the rumors going around about it going to Houston, I'm like, you know what? If they kept the name Houston Hurricanes, that actually sounds kind of cool. And I'm like, okay, that would soften the blow a little bit for me. But luckily, we never had to do that. But, that's one thing that, hockey can work anywhere if you have good management, good marketing, and you're taking steps towards the team being competitive. One of the things that really pisses me off about the dark ages is people were saying, well, look, they're fans. Unless the team is good, unless they're winning, they just don't care. No, that's not true. 2012, Alexander Semin, Jordan Staal, both came to the Hurricanes. People were super excited. Or 2013, I believe it was, one of the two. And people were super excited, and the attendance ticked back up. The attendance ticked back up for a while because we're like, okay, the team's going to be good again. And then everything fell off a cliff again. And then Francis took over,
and the season went to crap.
Yeah, just after that, it was just over. And then Ron Francis became the GM and said that there was going to be a 5-year rebuild. And I think during that time was where the fans took the hardest hit, because teams, if you give the fans something to be excited about, like for example, San Jose, pretty dark time for them. But people go to games to watch Macklin Celebrini play because they know that the team is going in the right direction. Same thing with Chicago. They go there to watch Connor Bedard play because they know that he's their future. We never saw things getting any better for the Hurricanes. It just looked like they were in this stagnant rut where they were constantly missing the playoffs by 2 points, 4 points, 6 points over and over again. They couldn't suck bad enough to get first. And then we finally got, Svechnikov.
I even think, what was it? I think it was the McDavid draft. That was 2015, which I can't complain about too much because we did get Aho in that draft. Yeah. But we were last in the league for a good long while until we decided to go on a run in the last month and ended up with the 7th worst. I think we drafted. We drafted. Was that Noah Hannafin?
Yeah, that was Hannafin that year.
Hannafin, and then of course there was McDavid, Eichel, and And we took Hannafin. Isn't that great?
Yeah, that was luckily one of Ron Francis's last mistakes.
He did draft Aho later, but yeah, Hannafin.
He did draft Aho
in the 4th. Hannafin,
that was
overall pick. Well done.
Yeah, that one didn't make sense to me. And I don't blame I don't blame the Canes front office for drafting Elias Lindholm at, what was it? He was 5th overall,
sixth, I think.
He was 6th overall. On paper, that looked like a good pick and a need at the time. And he just unfortunately never really hit his full stride in Carolina. There's times where it's like you can't really project how a lot of these are going to turn out.
Oh, he goes to play with Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau, and look what happened. Rest in peace. Or God rest his soul, Johnny Gaudreau. But yeah, he goes and played with a team with some forward talent, and look, he does all right.
Yeah. And another thing, it's like Bill Peters would never put Lindholm at center except in select situations. And Lindholm was a much more natural center, in my opinion. Like,
Still
that's
is.
why I never understood. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I'm like, I think that's why I advocated so hard for someone like Martin Necas to be tried there, because I know that's his natural position and that can do a lot for certain players. Now, Necas turned out not being that guy because they tried him at center in Colorado. That experiment lasted one period, not a whole game, a period. So I was totally wrong
Like
about that.
3
I'll admit
shifts.
when I'm wrong.
And now he
Yeah.
wants out. Like, golly, what? There's no pleasing this guy.
Yeah,
I mean,
you know
what
what?
do you want? What do you want,
That
bruh?
that whole situation was a blessing in disguise. I don't know if I've told you this story or told it on the channel before, but what Martin Necas experimenting with being a center in Colorado reminded me of, there was one time when I was a kid, when I was playing Little League, and I told my dad, I'm like, hey, I want to try pitching. He's like, okay, cool. So you know how when pitchers first start learning or when they're doing rehab, they do it on flat ground first, because you got to learn how to do it on flat ground or you'll never be able to do it on a mound. So we got to the flattest part of our backyard. And he's like trying to talk me through it and everything like that. Just, he never pitched, but he could, get me the basics down and everything. Because, I'm out there wearing my little Greg Maddux jersey. I think I'm all cool and everything. And that experiment lasted about as long as Martin Necas playing center in Colorado. Because my dad said, kid, this ain't in the cards for you. And like 9-10-year-old Brandon, whatever I was totally crushed. But then I'm like, you know what? He did me a favor. Now I didn't waste all my time trying to be something I knew I couldn't do. It's like when he saw me like trying to play forward, he was like, Brandon, that's not for you. Or Wing in particular. I was an all right center. But he's like, Wing is not, it's not for you. It's just not your thing. You're not going to be someone who scores a lot. You need to be someone who covers a lot of open ice. You need to be someone who just focuses on the defensive side of your game. He's like, you don't produce. It's just not in your DNA. He was right.
And you get to play more playing defense. You get to be on the ice.
Oh, yeah, and I'm fine with that. And at being a 200, like when I'm not playing center and I've been playing defense and everything, or when I've been playing center, when I've not played defense, I've actually really enjoyed the whole 200-foot grinder type of game and everything. Like, I actually, like, a lot of people just grit their teeth and bear that type of role. I actually enjoy it. I know it's I actually enjoy being the role player guy.
Yeah, I didn't watch a lot of hockey during the dead puck era. It was a little bit before my time, but in watching some clips just back of of games in the 90s, like those Devils games, of course, where everyone says that it's like now it has a reputation of being incredibly boring. I actually I thought it was pretty entertaining. Of course, if you like seeing Scott Stevens try to kill everyone that moves, and if you just enjoy hockey. I mean, like, you just have to be, it's an acquired taste, I guess, but you just have to really like the game of ice hockey. But if you do, like, what was it this year? We heard the games are boring or boring teams. Like, no, they make your team boring because they make your team do what they don't want to do, which is play along the boards a lot. They take away the middle. And Florida just did that, but better, with better players.
Yeah.
So what do you want? I mean, Florida's won the last 2 cups playing the Hurricanes game a little bit better than we did.
Yeah, with better goaltending. It's like
better goaltending and better forwards. So
yeah, it's basically the same thing, and that's what's funny to me about it. It's like, all right, so hear me out on this, because this is something I know I'm going to piss people off when I say this, but referencing the dead puck era, when you watch a game from back then, when someone won a face-off in the offensive zone in particular, it guaranteed you a good 20, 30 seconds of possession because of how slow everything was. Everyone was using
if it had happened, that was how it happened. You had to win.
That was how it happened. That's why I say nowadays, face-offs are not as valuable as they used to be, because possession changes so much, so frequently, so quickly. I'm not saying that they're not valuable still, but I don't see a player having a 48% face-off win rate as being that big of a deal now. Now, back then, if you were sub 50, that couldn't happen. Equal. Yeah. But nowadays, 100%. That doesn't matter so much.
Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you how many times I've watched a Canes game where they just dominate. They dominate in basically like every aspect, especially 5-on-5. And then at the end of it, I see like they won 33% of the draws. How did that happen in this game?
Yeah,
like they win almost no draws, but they have the puck the whole time because they lose it, but they get it right back. It's like
yeah. Let me see if I still have it in here, because I had that was one of the games against Washington in the playoffs that happened, because I'm like, all right,
yep,
we can't do that in the next game and win. That's not going to happen. Let's see.
think it was it game 3? I think it was game 3.
Maybe it was. Let me see. Oh wait, no, that's a pregame thing. Hold up, because I've still got a bunch of them in here. Now I'm curious about this because
I was actually at game 3 in the Washington series personally, and it looked like to me that at least for the first half of the game, the Hurricanes never had the puck, and then it was Svechnikov on a lost draw.
There it is. It is.
Oh, this is game 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was face off. Yep. Well, there you go. I guess
that's still.
Yeah, still.
That's insane.
60-40. 60-40.
No,
and
you wouldn't have won a game like this in the dead puck era. It was impossible. Face-offs were like the original and only possession metric at the time. It's like you couldn't do that then, but it's like now people are like still in this mindset that anything below 50 is unacceptable. I'm like, no, all that has changed. Like those days are over. The days of like having to perfectly get it on Al McInnes's stick and wait for 3 or 4 seconds before or Rob Blake or anybody that while they decide where they're going to put it if they want to shoot it from the point. The puck moves so much faster now because these guys are a lot stronger. They're not using wood sticks anymore. They got these crazy light composite ones, and just everything's different. But the biggest rule change I think they ever made, in my opinion,
line pass,
the most important, 2-line pass by far. And the only one I really want them to change is get rid of the damn trapezoid. I'm so sick of that.
I think we mentioned. Yeah, I mean, nowadays, I get what you're saying. I maybe disagree a little bit just because I looked at those games with Turco and Brodeur just being
Brodeur
especially being oppressive with how he could just skate into every time you put it in the court, he would just skate there and just flip it back out, and you just never could do anything. And if you ever did, it was Brodeur who was guarding the net. But it was just so many Devils games where it's just nothing. You could get nothing absolutely in the offensive zone at all because Brodeur was there to just be the third defenseman each time. And so, I'm a little leery of getting rid of the trapezoid for that reason. Maybe I just it's just I'm scared of Brodeur for another Brodeur like clone going back there and
in this day and age,
like when the gap wedge every time out of the corner, and it's just like that because that would really if you have a goaltender who could do that, the Hurricanes couldn't play their game anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
Their game. That's their game.
I just don't know if it's like and the other thing is and this supplements your argument a little bit. All the goalies are pretty good at playing the puck now. It's kind of a job requirement at this point. Like there's varying degrees of how good they are at it.
Except for Vasilevsky, he can't do it.
But he does everything else, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
he doesn't need to. Yeah. It's like who was it? Prince Fielder that they interviewed him. They asked him something about why don't you run? He's like, if I hit the ball far enough, I don't have to run. It's kind of the same thing with Vasilevsky. I don't have to go play the puck if I just stop it while I'm in the crease.
CC Sabathia, yeah.
Yeah, nice, that's why I'm
chunky pitcher.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of but the one question I have about that when it comes to the trapezoid in this day and age is the game too fast to where the goalies wouldn't be able to play the puck a whole lot anyway.
Maybe. Again, I just like everybody says, I take away the trapezoid. I'm like, I understand what you're talking about, but like I kind of want it there, just as a security blanket for me, just because not only because that is the Hurricanes game, is they put it in that corner because the goalie is not allowed to play it there. But I don't want to see another oppressive like goalie who just does what Jacob Slavin does, which is just gap wedge it out of the zone all night.
And the funny thing about when Jacob Slavin gap wedges it, he puts it where he wants to. Usually another Kane picks it up, and I'm like, that is amazing to me. Yep. Like, have you ever seen at the end of warmups how he sits there and he practices that? Like right before he goes into the locker room, he stands like right about at the face-off dot in the new behind the blue line, and he practices that little gap wedge thing. And it amazes me because he's trying to. I can tell he's like really happy with himself when it bounces off the blue paint and goes in the net. That's what he's aiming for when he practices that. But I've sat there and watched him do that. I don't know how many times, and I'm like, no wonder he's so good at that. Like it's got so much repetition to it. Very underrated.
And he'll do it right after school. Yeah, and he'll do that right after he swatted a saucer pass out of midair on a 2-on-1. It's just incredible what he does. Like, and
my friend,
we went off on a long tangent there, but bottom line, when it comes to the draft, keep an eye on these players for sure, and God willing, we'll pick Mason West somehow, some way, we'll get him, I can't wait to join your stream tomorrow and watch all the fireworks.
Yes, that as Elliot Friedman said. And one thing that we will do, I will make a post. You and I, let's pick our top 5 on the wish list, and we'll put that out there, and then we can review that during the draft. And of course, all of you are welcome to join us and everything like that. We actually didn't have a whole lot of comments tonight, but we still have, let's see, 118 viewers.
All right.
Yeah,
All right,
no,
good.
that's pretty cool. All right,
I told my Canadian hockey friend to join us. So, Al, if you're there, thanks for watching. And if not, I'll send it to you anyway.
All righty, let's see. Slumped says, good stream, thank you. BTS says, we don't need kitty team name, in reference to what we were talking about. Every mascot is bad. Just, it's supposed to be scary. That's the point.
The London Silly Nannies.
Yeah,
you get that reference.
Yeah, I do. It's like the basketball team in DC used to be called the Bullets. Like,
or my personal favorite right now, I don't know where this comes from, but the Pelicans.
That's a Finnish. That's a team in SM Liga, I believe.
It's the New Orleans. It's the New Orleans Pelicans, the NBA.
Oh, you mean the NBA team? I was thinking about the. Okay, I was thinking about the hockey team in
the
Liga.
NBA Pelicans.
Yeah,
like the Tweety Birds. I mean, even like, come on, like Hawk, Falcon.
Yeah, there's
Seahawk, something like that. You know, I mean, you can do better.
Panther. I
really.
Yeah, I got a history lesson on what Florida Panthers actually do, because I listed that as one of the mascots that can kill people. And some dude came in there and he wasn't being a dick about it at all, but it was actually cool to like learn about this. He said Florida Panthers actually have no recorded cases, actual Florida Panthers of like actually killing somebody. I'm like, well, tell the fucking hockey team that. They're trying their best.
Yeah. Which I guess, I don't know, maybe real quick before the stream ends, just a quick bit about free agency.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know, maybe I am higher on Marner than a lot of other Canes fans, I think. I really think he could excel here. Apparently, that, like, depending on who you're listening to, I mean, honestly, I don't think any of these people know shit. Like, a lot of these, people that are predicting where Marner goes and wants to go, like they say, oh, yeah, Marner's going to go to Dallas.
How?
Like, yeah. Thanks. Hashtag analysis, buddy. Golly, but okay, yeah, fine, yeah, he'll. You're saying he's going to end up in Dallas before Carolina? That's a take and a half. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to have him. I mean, I guess we're a little overloaded at right wing, but boy, I can. He and Aho could do a lot of damage together. I think. I think he'd be great at killing penalties. I'd love to have him, and frankly, like, I'd be willing to give him 14 mil for as many years as he wants. Maybe that puts me on an outlier, but I like him.
I've kind of softened up my position on Marner, because I know I said I was totally off the train, but then they started saying that he was looking for maybe a 3 or 4 year deal. And I'm like, okay, I'm a little more open to that.
Yeah, I think that's better. That works better for us, because because the production is the first thing to go with age. So I don't want to be paying him. I mean, if that's what it took to get him, I'd still be willing to do it. But I'm not going to like paying him $14 million when he's 34 and getting like maybe 40 points.
Yeah, but if he only takes a 3 or 4 year deal, that's not a problem.
Then we're not worried about that. Then we can and then once he turns age like 32, 33, he'll probably tail off, and then we let him walk, or we trade him to recoup a little value. So I like the short-term deal for Marner, and it's probably trending. Like you said, Ehlers is probably the guy that we're going after in free agency. But that, I mean, like, if we say to Marner's agent, hey, we're giving you $14 million a year, you can pick the term.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if he says no to that, then he's dumb.
Because a lot of other teams are going to want to lock him up long term, whereas I think the Canes could say, hey, if you only want 3 or 4 seasons, we've got a deep prospect pool, and we can kind of project out what would happen if you weren't here. We can do that for you.
Yeah. Like, because I think we can offer him the flexibility in the term. If he wants the 7, we'll give him 7. If he wants 3 or 4, we'll give him 3 or 4.
I prefer 3 or 4.
Yeah, so would I. But so I'd be perfectly willing to do either of those situations. I mean, I still like Ehlers, and he's my second free agent to target. I have Marner ahead of him. And although I will say this, it's looking like he'll probably stay with Florida, but Brad Marchand, if he's going to go somewhere else,
leaving Florida.
You don't think he's leaving? Okay, no. Well, if he is, I mean, what he did in Game 5. Yeah. What he did in Game 5 was absurd. was absurd. Where he like twice he scored like the top 10 goals of the season. He scored them both in Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final. That was just obscene, and he does it at age 38. Like, I don't know. He's a freak. He's a freak in nature. I don't care what his size is. I don't care if we get smaller on average by signing him. Like, if he is going to leave the Florida Panthers, then we should definitely make him an offer.
And he doesn't look like he's really slowed down at all with age either.
No. Like I said, that's a freak. He's an absolute freak of nature out there, especially like Game 5 was absurd. Imagine what he could do with Jarvis or something like that. Like he was doing that with the Four Nations too. I mean, like I don't know. I kind of like the idea of having him wearing the red and black. But yeah, and then I guess Ekblad, if he does look like he's the odd man out. I think Florida will you're right. Well, definitely keeping Bennett. They'll probably, if they have to pick Marchand or Ekblad, I think they're picking Marchand. But if it's Marchand instead, we got to offer one of them. I think if whoever one of their, whether it's Ekblad or Marchand hitting the market, we need to make him an offer.
I agree. Yes, Dylan, we will be doing a draft watch party tomorrow night, and it's going to be really, really good. Me and this guy, Matthew, right here, will both be doing it. We may be joined by my friends AB and Griff from Caniac Sessions, and possibly Sam Wallace from Caniac Report. I'm going to try and wrangle everybody. Yeah, I'm going to try and get everybody that I can for that. So that'll be good because we'll have a whole bunch to talk about for a good couple hours. So, but yeah, Dylan, that is planned. So, all right, buddy. Well, speaking of that, I do have to start getting the stuff ready for that tomorrow night. It has been an absolute pleasure again.
Thanks so much for having me, Brandon. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to tomorrow.
Yep, I will see you tomorrow, and I will see all of you tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, for joining the stream. And tomorrow, draft, about 30 minutes in advance of the draft is when I'll get started, and I'll start bringing out everybody else in that wants to come in, and we can talk about various draft picks. We can do some little Q&A stuff, and then we'll also instantly analyze whoever the Canes pick if they don't trade the picks back, and then they don't get Mason West or they don't get Ravensburg, and I get really mad. And
or they don't trade for a player. They could do that too.
Oh God, I've already accepted. You know how you've accepted we're not going to draft Mason West. I've already accepted that they're not going to trade for a player. Yeah, that's where my acceptance started. Was that?
Yeah. All righty.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good night.
Good night. Good night, everyone.